Hi guys, and welcome back for another video here at Ricky's Vape Spot. Today we'll be taking a look at the Kayfun Prime by SvoeMesto. So I've had the Kayfun Prime for about 3 to 4 weeks right now, and so really had the time to test it out and put it through some regular everyday usage. And I really have to say that the Kayfun Prime is definitely my favorite mouth-to-lung device. There is absolutely no leaking, no gurgling, and no flooding, nothing. And I even had it on planes, and I picked it up later, and it just worked normally without any leakage. So there's actually a lot to it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I did have the chance to talk to Flo from SvoeMesto when I was in Paris at the Vape Expo, and he told me about all the little changes and tweaks they did with the Kayfun Prime as opposed to the Kayfun 5 and the Kayfun Mini V3. So there's definitely a lot of improvements, and what I can tell you right from the start is basically they took all the good things from the Kayfun Mini V3 and the Kayfun 5 and they just put it all together in this Kayfun Prime, and I really have to say it's turned out perfect. So if you are a hardcore mouth-to-lung vapor, you might want to stick around until the end of this video just to get a good idea about what's making up the Kayfun Prime. I would like to say a big thank you to MTM Store for making this review possible. You can get the Kayfun Prime on their website. I will leave all the links down in the description box below. They do currently have it in stock, so just go and check them out. So what we're gonna do today is, first of all, I'm gonna go clean this up. We're gonna dive down to the table, have a close look at it, and also we'll put a build inside and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Later on, we'll try and compare it to the Kayfun 5 and the Kayfun Mini V3 in order to get a good idea about what has changed and what has improved. So without further ado, let's go and get to work. Okay guys, and here we are up close and personal with the SvoeMesto Kayfun Prime. It comes in this black cardboard box. On the front we do have the SvoeMesto logo as well as a Kayfun Prime sticker here. On the back some company infos. This and this side we do have some warnings, but there's really not much to that. So let's open it up and take a look inside. Inside we will have and will get the Kayfun Prime. It does come installed with the stainless steel section as far as I can remember, but I swapped it out to glass. And what's interesting about the stainless steel cap is that they will have some engravings of famous cities as well as city emblems here. And the first 5 cities on the stainless steel tanks are actually Russian cities, just in celebration of SvoeMesto's roots there. And I think they look really nice. So this is actually the city of Sochi. I'm not sure if you can see that. I will try. And so this is actually the city of Sochi here. I think it's supposed to be somewhere in the southern part of Russia. And this is actually the Kayfun Prime. Underneath we do get, I'm not sure if this was actually packed like this or not. But we do get this small envelope here with some goodies inside as well as some instruction manuals and different types of O-rings and different screws. Now the screws will not be installed in the tank. I had to install them. And as far as I know, you do have different types of screws here, so just be aware of that. So let's put this back together again. Let's put this aside. From top to bottom we do have a mouthpiece. It's pretty similar to the Kayfun 5. It does have a plastic piece on top. This is replaceable, and this is the top cap here. Then we have the tank section. I will not put everything apart because it basically functions the same, follows the same design as the Kayfun 5, but just so you know. And this is actually the chamber section and the build deck here. I do have a coil already installed here. We'll see about that if we will change it or not. And then on the bottom we do have adjustable airflow. Same as with the Kayfun 5 design, we will have different settings for different airflow options. And as it says on the SvoeMesto side, that we will have airflow options from 1 mm to all the way to 2 mm. So, and not to get it mistaken, all of the airflow options are pretty tight and basically just catered for that mouth to lung experience. And on the bottom we do have some engravings here, as well as some serial numbers, Kayfun Prime logos, SvoeMesto logo, as well as this 510 screw on the bottom here. Let me just take out the Kayfun 5 and the Kayfun Mini V3 just to get you an idea on how this is put together. The Kayfun 5 and the Kayfun Mini and the Kayfun Prime here. So the Kayfun Prime and the Kayfun Mini V3, they have the same build deck in size. It's just missing those little notches here where you can actually put your wire in. So this is actually something that has been taken from the Kayfun 5. The Kayfun 5 does have a larger chamber and a larger build deck, but this is something actually that they improved to get this mouth to lung experience from the Kayfun Mini V3. If you're used to building on the Kayfun Mini V3, you will not have any problems. As a matter of fact, I think you will have an easier time building on the Kayfun Prime than the Kayfun Mini. Another interesting thing is that actually with the Kayfun Prime, you can use some parts of the Kayfun 5. And I do have this extension pack here, which actually makes it a 4 milliliter tank, 4.5 milliliter tank. This glass part here in the extension pack is actually the same glass as they use on the Kayfun 5. You can basically use them and interchange them, as well as the stainless steel tank from the Kayfun 5 if you're into that. So what we have to do in order to extend this section here is actually we have to screw on this extension part. So there's actually an O-ring here that you want to press down, like so. And then screw on top of that this extension part, and we get something that looks like this. And of course then you can install the bigger glass tank and the upper tank section here and put it together with the Kayfun Prime that is right here. Of course the down part of the threading, due to the smaller chamber on the Kayfun Prime, will definitely not fit the Kayfun 5, okay? But you can use the stainless steel tank section or the glass section from the Kayfun 5 if you want to get an extension here. The extension part as well you can get on the MTM website as well. I think I will leave it in 2 milliliter mode and the smaller tank section, just because I prefer it, the look of it more, but I will talk more about that when we get back to top. So let's put this tank section back together again. You do want to tighten and make sure your O-rings are in place, and then just finger tight it. Basically wicking is functioned the same as in the Kayfun 5 or the Kayfun Mini V3. You screw it, I have it today on this iStick Pico resin, and this build is coming out to approximately 1 ohm, and this is actually where I like it. I'm using a 28 gauge Cantle wire here, 6 wraps on a 2.5 millimeter screwdriver. It's coming out to approximately 1 ohm, so this is perfectly fine for what we are using. So let's try and wick this up. I will use some cotton bacon. You want it to be tight but not too tight, so let's go with that one. And that's about right here. The Kayfun Prime is, as well as the Kayfun 5 and the Kayfun Mini V3, they're pretty tolerable to the builds that you throw in there, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Of course, the nicer the build, the better the vape, but this should do it. That might be still a little bit too much cotton, but let's go with that. So, and what I tend to do here is just like get up the corners and then just stick it in. 2.5 millimeters is actually a perfect size, in my opinion, for this tank. You could get in a 3 millimeter diameter coil, but I think there's really no need to it. Let me just get this in here, nice and fluffy. And don't worry, the Kayfun Prime, it's really meant for all types of liquids. I didn't have any problems or dry hits out of it. Nice, well, let's juice it up. I like to kind of just drip it on the coil and then just pulse it to draw in the juice. It works good like that. So that should be about it. And of course, don't forget to lube your O-rings and threads. So this is the top cap from the inside. We do have juice flow holes right here. And the filling cap, we do have on the top, we do have 3 filling slots here. It's a little bit different than the Kayfun 5. On the Kayfun 5 we did have just holes. On the Kayfun Prime we have this slots. So let's put it back together like so. Close it all the way down, fill it up. Another thing that they improved on the Kayfun Prime is basically all the design details they had on the Kayfun 5 and the Kayfun Mini V3, for example. Still, they have this beveled part here on the Kayfun Prime as on the Kayfun 5. There's some room for the air to escape on this side as well as on the Kayfun Prime top cap here. And another thing they did, they actually beveled out this inside part here and the top cap part here, just in order to give more room inside for the air. Some of you might have experienced, especially with the Kayfun Mini, we do have a flat part here on the top cap and a flat part here on the top section of the tank. So they did have these indents here for the air to escape while screwing it back on. But they fixed that on the Kayfun 5 and then on the Kayfun Prime. There's not much room for the air that's inside the tank when you screw this back on. So they kind of redid this top cap, so you do have a lot more room inside for the air not to build up pressure and then just force the juice through the tank. So this is something that they really did a nice job on, and I really have to say all the threads on the Kayfun 5 are buttery smooth and everything is working like a charm. In order to adjust the airflow, you do have to open up the tank. 2, 3. I usually do like 3 turns. Comes out to about approximately 2 whole turns, and this is just fine for me. It has worked every time. So now to the airflow options. We do have it. This is on the tightest setting. We have 2. You just lift it up and then turn it to your desired point. And this is working great. I think that's it for the close-up. Let's go back to top, have a vape and talk a little bit more about it. So that was actually a closer look at the Kayfun Prime. One thing I didn't show you guys was actually the airflow coming underneath the coil. And that's because I think I can show you that much better on the picture. So what they did with the airflow, as you can see in the picture, is that it's not really a hole, it's basically a slot that distributes the air evenly, or better to say unevenly, to the coil, meaning that the center part will get much more airflow than the outer parts of the coil, giving the Kayfun Prime an even distribution of airflow throughout the whole coil. And I really think that's something that helps a lot to the Kayfun Prime, and of course the flavor you get from it. I think this is definitely something they will transfer to all the future Kayfun iterations. When we talk about the Kayfun Prime, this is definitely a mouth-to-lung device. And while the Kayfun 5 was something that was in between mouth-to-lung and direct lung hits, or you had to get the restriction part for the mouth-to-lung experience, this is something that is totally catered to mouth-to-lung vapors. And I think that today we're so used to big atomizers and big coils that we tend to forget how we used to vape before. The Kayfun Prime, I'm having 28 gauge Cantel inside, 6 wraps on a 2.5mm screwdriver, coming out to 1 ohm, and I could even go a little bit higher with that, 1.1, 1.2 ohms. I'm using it at 14 watts. With a single 18650 battery, this easily gets me through most of the day or through the whole night. And the juice consumption, the Kayfun Prime, is so minimal that you will actually forget that this is a 2 milliliter tank. All in all, with the Kayfun Prime, I do get this type of throwback to the old days of the Kayfun. I'm not saying that in a bad way, I'm actually saying that in a good way. What they did basically is get this original Kayfun experience and put it in a new beautiful design that just works. It's easy to fill, it's easy to navigate the airflow options, and there's absolutely no leaking and no gurgling, no dry hits whatsoever. So they really did an awesome and fantastic job with the Kayfun Prime. So let's try and play a little bit with the airflow options. I'm having this at 2 points right now. Let's close it down all the way. So on the 1 point here, this is a 1mm airflow hole. And it's pretty tight. I suppose the 2 is the 1.2mm. It's a little bit looser, and this is actually where I like it. On the 3 points, I suppose it's 1.4 or so. Then we have 4 points, much looser. 5 points, this is I suppose 1.8. And then last but not least, 6 points, 2mm airflow. And with the 2mm, you could get a really restricted direct lung hit if you would like so. If you do some slipstreaming as well. But then again, if you're using a 12mg Aegis in here, that's not really something that you would want to do. So I'll put it back to 2-3 holes, 2-3 dots. That's where I like it. And this is working fine. There is really not much to say more about the Kayfun Prime except that it's a really awesome device. So if you don't mind the price point of the Kayfun Prime, which is around 920 kunas, or in euros it's around 120 euros, I think you will be more than happy with this device. And when I talk about high-end devices, this is not something that you change every month. This is something that you buy once and then you use it for an extended period of time. And same is with all the Kayfuns that I own. This is something that's definitely in my daily rotation, and when I just want to sit down and relax, have a vape, and having that restricted mouth-to-lung experience from the Kayfun Prime is definitely something that gets me excited. So if you're into that Kayfun Prime extension kit, you can get it as well at MTM store for 111 Croatian kunas. Lately I'm mainly on my squonking devices, but I always carry the Kayfun with me simply because there's always some time of the day when you can't blow massive clouds and you just want a really nice, silent and stealth device, and the Kayfun Prime is perfect for that. When I go out to cafes or bars, I usually take the Kayfun Prime with me. In the car, the same thing. It's just a more convenient option for me. This tank easily gets me through the whole day because it's really not consuming a lot of juice. So to wrap this whole thing up, there's not really anything bad I can say about the Kayfun Prime, because it basically has everything that you would need. If this is something that you feel is too restricted for you, then the other option that you have is going, of course, with the Kayfun 5, since this is then the step somewhere in between. As of me, I really actually like the Kayfun Prime for its mouth-to-lung capabilities, and this is something that I will be using from now on. Once again, a big thank you goes out to MTM Store for making this review possible, and please feel free to check out the link in the description box below if you're interested in getting such a device. I hope you did find some of these informations useful here you saw in this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to my channel, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. I'm wishing you all a wonderful rest of the day. Let's keep on vaping, and I'll see you again pretty soon. you.